Saskatchewan's farm sector could see significant changes when the North American Free Trade Agreement is reopened next month. The United States wants to ship more grain and dairy products to its neighbors. It also wants to scrap NAFTA's dispute settlement mechanism. To help us understand all of this, the CBC's Jennifer Cannell joins us from downtown Saskatoon tonight. Hi, Jen, what's the latest?
Well, if you look at it, for Saskatchewan, the United States is our single biggest trading partner. We send grain south, we send cattle, livestock, all sorts of raw materials like potash. And so on balance, though, we still buy more from the Americans than we ship down to them. So if you look at trade, we're in a pretty good position going into these NAFTA negotiations next month. Now, Saskatchewan's Premier and the other territorial and Premier leaders, they've all been discussing this in Edmonton, and Brad Wall is saying absolutely, Canada needs to negotiate from that position of strength. And he says we should also probably be keeping a quiet list of places where we could retaliate if necessary.
So I think we can be strategic. We don't have to, I don't think we should be focused on a list, but let's just be prepared to populate one, to be strategic in this as a background. I don't think it's needed, but let's, to change a little bit of what a U.S. President Roosevelt's quote, let's walk softly and carry a big list. Just know what it is and understand that we need to be prepared, although for something that we don't want to see happen, and we should be confident that that will not happen as we engage with our American partners.
Overall, Jen, what's the tone of negotiations going to look like?
I was asking a University of Saskatchewan professor, Greg Pelzer, about that, and he said, compared to the rhetoric we were hearing on the American campaign trail during their last election, Jill, we were hearing about ripping up NAFTA, about how it was the worst trade deal ever, according to Donald Trump then. Well, now, if you look at the wish list of American trade negotiators' demands, it's actually not so bad. He says Canada's not the target here. Mexico is really the country in the crosshairs. That's the one where the United States really wants to sort of level the playing field. But he says there is one deal breaker in what the Americans have laid out in their wish list for Canada, and that's this Chapter 19 dispute resolution mechanism.
This is a big one, and Saskatchewan has a lot potentially to lose. And this is when you look at Section 19, and that's in terms of trade dispute panel. It's been one of the very important elements of the original free trade agreement and of course of NAFTA, and Canada's done very well on that.
That's the one that Canada had said that we are not going to sign NAFTA back in 1994 unless there is a trade dispute mechanism in there.
Exactly, and it's going to be interesting to see where our current federal government is going to go on this issue. So you get waves of times over the past decades where you have U.S. politics becoming a little more protectionist, claiming that Canada is unfairly dumping lumber into U.S. markets, or our beef products, or our pork products, our wheat products, all things that we produce in Saskatchewan, all things that we export to the United States. We are Canada's largest wheat producer. So if they remove that section of the NAFTA agreement, which provides that dispute mechanism, that panel to resolve trade disputes, that could really hurt Saskatchewan's economy. And it's not surprise, therefore, that we see Premier Wall leading the charge in terms of kind of taking the preparatory steps of what retaliatory measures might we have in our holster, as it were, as we go into the negotiations. So it's one of those things is hope for the best, but prepare for the worst.
Jen, we heard Greg Pelzer mention beef products or our pork products, our wheat products. What have agriculture producers told you so far?
Well, we heard from the Agriculture Producers Association of Saskatchewan, largely these are grain farmers, and they were saying, yes, it's okay for the Americans to say they want to ship more grain into Canada, but a bushel of wheat here is not the same as a bushel of wheat in the United States. We have different varieties that we grow, we grade them differently, even the protein content is different, and they're saying it could take years if you want to integrate those systems. It's not something you can do overnight. As for cattle producers, when I checked with them, the Saskatchewan Cattlemen's Association was saying, look, on balance, we've done pretty well under NAFTA. They did say that they would like less paperwork, a more integrated inspection system so that you don't have animals all having to be unloaded when you show up with the border. They've already been inspected by a Canadian vet. That should be good enough. Inspect them in one country only. And as for dairy and egg producers, they're saying they don't really need American imports coming here. They say, we're not covered under NAFTA, and if the system ain't broke, please don't go fixing it.
And one other area that definitely caught some people's attention today, Jen, the Americans want to attract more Canadian online shoppers.
Yes, that's with, there's right now what you're doing, and when you shop online or you buy things online from the United States, after you spend $20, import taxes kick in for us Canadians trying to get a deal on online American products. So the Americans have said, hey, we'd like to raise that exemption from $20 to $800 that you could spend buying stuff from Amazon or other American retailers before you'd have to pay duties. So that is one thing that would be great for online shopping fans like maybe me and you. Maybe not so great though if you operate, say, a bricks and mortar store here in Saskatoon and you want to keep it open.
Thanks so much, Jen.
You're welcome.